A soldier came home and found his German Shepherd starving in his backyard. What he did next inspired millions. The air was colder than Logan Carter remembered. He stepped off the long-haul bus just as dusk settled over the small Texas town he once called home. His duffel bag slung over one shoulder, a single rolling suitcase behind him. He made his way on foot toward the old family house tucked at the edge of the neighborhood. Each step felt surreal. 13 months in Syria, the chaos, sand, the silence after explosions. It all felt farther away than the familiar cracked sidewalks now beneath his boots. When he reached the backyard gate, something in his chest shifted. The house stood in eerie stillness. The porch light was off. Grass had overtaken the garden beds. Weeds reached up through the broken fence panels. The back door was shut tight, its rusted hinges sealed with time. "Mom, Dad," he called out, his voice low, uncertain. No response. He circled to the side door, the one that always stuck in the summer. It creaked open, without resistance now. Inside, everything was still. The living room sat untouched. Dust coated the couch cushions. Picture frames leaned at odd angles. A thin film covered the kitchen table. Plates were gone from the cabinets, drawers half open, as if left in a rush. Logan's chest tightened. He had no idea that during his deployment, his parents had lost the house due to financial strain and quietly, moved out months ago. Letters had gone unanswered, calls dropped, and now he was home, but the home was empty. He dropped his bag by the door and stepped out into the backyard. The wind picked up, carrying with it a sharp chill and a silence that seemed unnatural. Then just as he turned to leave, he heard it, a scratch, faint, then a low, broken whimper. He froze. The sound came from the corner of the yard, the old wooden kennel, half collapsed from neglect. He approached slowly, pulling out the flashlight from his backpack, its beams slicing through the darkness. Then he saw it. In the farthest corner of the kennel, a dog lay curled against the splintered boards. Its body was skeletal, fur in patches, skin clinging to bone. The dog trembled with each shallow breath. One of its hind legs was twisted unnaturally. Its eyes, pale and filmy, locked onto his. Logan's first instinct was to turn away. It looked feral, nearly dead. But then the flashlight caught something on its neck, a collar, rusted and cracked, with one word barely visible beneath the grime: Axel. The world seemed to stop. Axel, the German Shepherd he had raised from a pup, the dog he had trained, loved, and whispered to before deployment, promising, "I'll come back for you." A neighbor had offered to care for him. Logan had believed him. Now that same dog lay dying in the dirt, forgotten by everyone except Logan. He dropped to his knees. "Axel, oh God." The dog stirred, slowly, painfully. Axel dragged himself forward an inch, then another, until his snout touched the toe of Logan's boot. He pressed his head against it and gave a single weak wag of his tail before collapsing. Tears filled Logan's eyes, blurring the light as he reached out and gathered Axel into his arms. The dog was light, far too light. His breath was shallow, heartbeat faint. Logan stood, holding Axel close to his chest, his voice cracking through clenched teeth. "I left you, and you waited for me. You waited all this time." He ran through the yard, through the dark street beyond, tears streaming down his face, dialing emergency numbers with shaking hands, carrying a dog who never stopped believing he would come home. The fluorescent lights in the emergency veterinary clinic buzzed faintly overhead as Logan stood in the corner, arms crossed tightly, staring through the glass window into the operating room. Axel lay on a metal table, surrounded by a team of professionals, moving with urgent precision. One of the vets, a woman with tired eyes and gentle hands, stepped into the hallway to speak with Logan. "He has less than 24 hours unless we act now," she said. "Severe malnutrition, dehydration, organ stress, infection. We can try, but it won't be cheap, and there are no guarantees." Logan did not hesitate. He reached into his back pocket, pulled out his military ID and bank card, and signed the consent form with a firm stroke. Every cent he had saved from his last tour, meant for a truck or a new start, would now go towards saving the only soul that had waited for him. Back at the house, the silence was deafening. Logan left the lights off, lit a single lamp in the living room, and started cleaning. He scrubbed the floors, vacuumed dust from the furniture, washed windows streaked with grime. It was nearly dawn when he stopped in the middle of the room. He laid down a thick blanket, folded towels, and an old pillow. It would be Axel's bed. He filled a stainless steel bowl with cold water and set it beside a second one in the kitchen. He defrosted beef, chopped carrots and rice, and simmered everything slowly into a stew. Every movement was deliberate, quiet, heavy with guilt and hope. The next evening, the clinic called. Axel had made it through surgery. They brought him home, wrapped in a thermal blanket, and 4 ports still taped to his front leg, a small shaved patch over a stitched wound. He could not walk. He barely lifted his head. But he was alive. Logan laid Axel on the prepared bedding and knelt beside him. "We're here now," he whispered. "This is home again." Each day was a test of patience and endurance. Logan set alarms to feed Axel every 4 hours, measured his water intake, kept a journal of his recovery. He sat with him for hours, speaking softly, playing quiet classical music to drown out the emptiness. When Axel trembled, Logan opened the windows to let sunlight warm the space. He learned how to gently massage Axel's muscles, encouraging blood flow. Every time Axel lifted his head, Logan celebrated like a victory. Then came the night Logan's past broke through. It started like it always did, in the quiet, a memory, a sound, a flash. Logan bolted upright from the couch, drenched in sweat, heart pounding as he gasped for air. His chest felt tight, vision blurred, hands clawing at his shirt. And then movement. Axel, dragging his weak body across the floor, pulled himself into the room. Logan barely noticed, until he felt a gentle nudge against his chest. The dog rested his head there, his breath slow and steady. A low whine vibrated through his throat, grounding Logan in the moment, anchoring him in something real. Logan wrapped his arms around Axel, pulled him in close, forehead pressed to fur. "I came back for you," he whispered, voice cracking. "But maybe you came back for me too." The room fell still again, but this time it was not empty. The days grew longer, and so did Axel's strength. With each passing morning, he seemed to reclaim a little more of the life he had nearly lost. What started as weak attempts to lift his head turned into dragging himself to the food bowl, and eventually, one crisp morning, he stood, shaky, unsteady, but on all fours. Logan watched with wide eyes, frozen in place, afraid that if he moved, the moment would vanish. Axel took one slow step, then another, then collapsed into the blanket. But he wagged his tail just once, and that was enough to bring tears to Logan's eyes. Recovery was not just Axel's journey, it was Logan's too. Since coming home, he had been relying on sleeping pills and occasional numbing habits to dull the constant hum of past trauma. But with Axel now needing him fully, Logan stopped taking the pills. He replaced the restless nights with walks in the yard, feeding schedules, and new purpose. He began preparing real meals, eating with Axel by his side. By the 3rd week, he started waking up early to stretch, to move, to breathe beside his dog. They trained together, Axel learning to walk again, Logan learning how to live again. Their days found rhythm. Morning walks as the fog lifted from the grass, evenings spent side by side on the porch steps, bathed in orange light, the wind brushing gently past them. Neither spoke, of course, but the silence was no longer something to fear. It was shared. One evening, Logan snapped a photo, Axel's head resting on his knee, the sun painting them gold. On a whim, he logged into the old Facebook group for military veterans, a place he had not visited since deployment. He uploaded the photo and wrote, "He waited for me. I don't know how, but he did. And somehow, he's helping me come back too." He almost did not hit post, but he did. And the response was like a tidal wave. Within hours, the post had hundreds of likes. Comments poured in. Fellow soldiers shared their stories, their dogs, their pain. Messages came from strangers, from widows of veterans, from former medics and nurses who remembered soldiers like Logan. They thanked him. They thanked Axel. Then came a private message, a short one. "I was going to end my life tonight. Then I read your story. Your dog saved more than you think." Logan read the message 3 times, staring at the screen in stunned silence. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from something else, something deeper. He blinked, swallowed, and leaned back in his chair. Axel, sensing the shift in energy, got up slowly and patted over. He climbed gently into Logan's lap, still too big for it, and laid his head squarely on Logan's chest. Logan wrapped his arms around the dog, holding him close. His eyes burned, but he let the tears fall, not out of grief this time, but out of something unfamiliar, something healing. He pressed his cheek into Axel's fur and whispered, "We're doing it, buddy. We're actually doing it." And in that golden silence, man and dog sat together, 2 souls who had once been lost, now leading others home. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the park as Logan and Axel strolled along the winding path. It had become part of their new routine. An hour outside every day, surrounded by the laughter of children, the rustle of leaves, and the normalcy that Logan once thought he would never feel again. Axel walked proudly by his side, still bearing a slight limp, but moving with strength and purpose that defied the memory of the frail dog Logan had found just weeks ago. They neared the playground where families gathered. Toddlers ran through the grass, and the air was filled with squeals of joy. Logan smiled faintly. Axel's ears twitched at the sound of children, his tail swaying gently behind him. Then it happened. A loud shout pierced the calm, followed by a flurry of motion. A large dog, muscular, wild-eyed, its leash trailing behind, had broken free from its owner and was barreling toward a little girl standing alone near the edge of the play area. She froze, eyes wide, unable to scream. Chaos erupted. Parents shouted, people ran. Logan turned instinctively, his eyes locking on the incoming danger. He opened his mouth to call out, but before a word left his lips, Axel moved, like a switch had been flipped inside him. Axel surged forward, body low, fast, every ounce of his training and protective instinct igniting all at once. Logan yelled his name, but Axel was already a blur across the grass. He reached the girl just as the other dog lunged. Axel threw himself into its path, intercepting the attack midair. The 2 animals collided with a vicious snarl. Axel growled, bit, clawed, locked onto the dog's scruff, and held it back with all the strength his wounded body could muster. Logan sprinted forward, heart pounding in his chest. By the time he reached them, Axel was still holding the other dog down, blood staining the fur around his neck and shoulder. The little girl was crying, but untouched, scooped into her mother's arms and pulled to safety. Logan dove between the snarling chaos, gripping Axel's collar, shouting for help. Other adults joined in, pulling the aggressive dog away. It took several minutes to separate them. When it was over, the ground was torn, grass ripped, blood soaked into the dirt. Axel lay panting, his body trembling, his ear torn, and one leg twisted unnaturally beneath him. No, no, no. Logan dropped to his knees, cradling Axel's battered body in his arms. Blood smeared his hands, his shirt, but he did not care. "You're okay, buddy. Stay with me. You did good. You did so good." Axel blinked slowly, his chest rising and falling with shallow, labored breaths. The sound of sirens approached in the distance. Someone had called animal emergency. Logan pressed his face into Axel's fur, his voice breaking. "You saved her like you saved me," he whispered, tears falling freely onto the dog's blood-matted coat. Axel did not respond, but his tail twitched once, just once, against Logan's arm before going still. And in that moment, surrounded by chaos, sirens, and strangers, Logan held the dog who had once waited for him through war and time, and who had just given everything to protect again. The video was shaky, taken by a bystander's phone, but it captured everything. The frantic screams, the charging dog, Axel's leap, and the moment he threw himself between a terrified little girl and danger. It captured blood, chaos, and a soldier's trembling hands cradling his injured companion. Within hours, the clip went viral. The media called it the Backyard Guardian story. News stations ran the footage on every major network. Headlines read, "Neglected dog becomes hero. Veteran's dog saves child from forgotten to fearless." Within days, Logan and Axel's faces were on every screen in America. The world wanted to know more, not about a soldier or a war, but about the bond that had survived both. Interviews poured in, morning shows, veteran organizations, animal rescue groups. Logan kept his answers simple, heartfelt. He never tried to make himself the hero. "I didn't rescue Axel," he said over and over. "He rescued everything I had left." He told the story of how he found Axel in the backyard, starving and silent, how he almost walked away, how that broken dog brought him back to life, piece by piece. Every time he spoke, he looked at Axel with the same gratitude in his eyes, a look that needed no translation. Then came the invitation from the American Hero Dog Awards. They wanted to honor Axel with the highest national recognition for service animals, Hero Dog of the Year. The ceremony would be held in New York City. Logan hesitated, unsure if Axel could travel, unsure if he even wanted the attention. But when he asked Axel softly, as if the dog could decide, Axel thumped his tail and nudged Logan's hand, as if to say, "We've come this far. Let's go the rest of the way." The night of the ceremony, the theater was full, hundreds of guests, bright lights, music, and emotion in the air. When Axel's name was announced, the room erupted in applause. He stepped onto the stage beside Logan, his gait uneven but proud, the light catching the healed scar along his shoulder like a badge of honor. People stood. Applause turned to cheers. Some wiped away tears. Logan adjusted the microphone. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. He was forgotten in the backyard. Logan began, his voice clear. "But he never gave up on me. He waited. He forgave. And when it mattered most, he gave again. That is what love looks like. That is what loyalty truly means." There was no sound in the room for a beat, then a thunderous standing ovation. Later that night, far from the stage and cameras, Logan and Axel returned home. The house was still quiet, still familiar. They walked out to the porch as the sky burned with sunset. Axel lay down slowly, resting his head on Logan's boot, breathing deep and steady. Logan reached down and stroked his head. No words were spoken. None were needed. The final light of day stretched across the yard, casting two shadows side by side. One man, one dog, watching the world they had saved and been saved by. On the screen, in silent text, the words appeared. They were never just a soldier and a dog. They were the parts of each other that war couldn't take. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey. A story of loyalty, survival, redemption, and the unshakable bond between a soldier and his best friend. Axel was more than a dog. He was hope with four legs, a quiet hero who waited through silence and rose when it mattered most. If this story touched your heart, made you smile, cry, or believe in second chances again, we invite you to be part of something bigger. Subscribe to Amazing Paws Stories for more true, emotional tales of animals who save us in ways we never see coming. Give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment to tell us how Axel's journey moved you, and don't forget to share it with someone who could use a reminder that love, loyalty, and healing often come with paws. Because here at Amazing Paws Stories, every paw has a purpose, and every story has the power to inspire millions. We'll see you in the next one.